That's all you get, Mike.
Let me get recordings going. Get that out of the way. And once I get this thing set up, if we can do a sound check.
Sound check.
Sound check. All right, we're done, Mike.
Yep.
Not yet. I'm not ready.
Funny guys. Funny guys with your sound checks.
Somebody's going to have fun.
All right, Tim, you first.
Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3.
One more time.
Check 1, 2, 3. One more time.
Okay. AD.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. This is how I'm going to talk. So this is what you get.
All right, all good. Let me turn down the music. I think they were still hearing the music. Dang it. Sorry,
Music.
guys. Yeah, you guys probably weren't hearing it, but Jan was probably hearing it, and whoever else was out there over top of us talking. So I'll just turn the music off.
Oh, I gotta open up my chat
more
window.
And we're still only on YouTube.
I don't even hear the music.
No, I don't. You don't do it unless you went to the YouTube page.
Oh, I'm not there yet. Maybe I should get there.
So, but you shouldn't hear it now because I just muted it. And we're only streaming to YouTube still, no Facebook. That may come back someday, but not now.
Should I use my regular account that people know me by, or should I be on here as a gamer?
Whatever you want.
Totally confuse people.
Whatever
All
you
right.
want.
There you go.
Tim, I've added another computer to the mix.
Of course you did.
Yeah, like this wasn't enough. So I'm trying out tonight when I go to display a web page. It's not going to be on computer number 4. It's going to
Okay.
actually be on computer number 5, which is a virtual computer on my Unraid server.
Okay. Oh, well, that's good enough power.
Yeah, I want to see. It does great. It seems to be fine. I just want to give it a try tonight, just to test it. We're not going to do a whole lot of showing of web pages, so there's not a lot going on there.
Mike, do you need me to pre-share my screen?
Yeah, you can do that.
I didn't know if it was like.
I've got the screen. I got it set up to capture that screen, I think.
Oh. Because NDI now sends you its own feed for desktop, right?
Does it?
Yes, it does. Because I have, when I do my podcast with Janice, I have her share her screen at the beginning, and then I can just call up her screen whenever I want to.
Well, hold on a second.
So
We're going to add a new input that's going to be.
I'm going to blow everything up now that I mentioned this.
Let's see.
Walter Arnold, what?
Wait, Walter Arnold's out there?
What is Walter Arnold? That guy's too famous to be on YouTube. What is going on? Why is he here? Now I'm nervous because
Did you tell Walter to come out here?
I made an announcement on my Patreon that we were doing a show tonight.
Walter, I still want to have you on the show. It's my fault. I've been distracted, and but I definitely want to invite you to come on as a guest to the show once things settle down a little more. Hey, I'm still not seeing it. Mike, get that.
It should show up as a Skype desktop, I think.
Skype shared screen.
Yeah, something like that.
But it's coming across all black. Nope, there it is.
Yeah, it takes a bit to sync.
There we go. I got to turn the audio off on it. Why am I getting audio from it?
Because NDI seems to want to stream audio with every single broadcast. I didn't understand that either. Like I always did my, in a very short doubling or echoing of my voice, which I noticed that everybody's voices was like doubling when I watched it on YouTube.
Really?
Maybe it's just me. Tim, try you.
Try me.
Yeah, you.
I don't hear any feedback at all.
I didn't hear it until I watched the YouTube feedback, and then I could hear it doubling.
I'm not. I have the YouTube muted out, so.
Yeah, when I listened to the YouTube audio, it was doubled. Tim has the same effect.
Tim has
Mike,
the same effect.
Yeah, are you receiving an NDI sound and also the sound through your card? Because that's what was happening with me. I would get an NDI. I had to mute the NDI feeds because that's the way Skype does it.
Let's say something now.
Hello? Am I coming through 2 feeds?
Let's see.
Yeah, it's like a doubling effect, Walter.
Is it still there?
1 to 2 milliseconds.
Yeah. Is it still here, Walt? Fixed. He
Fixed.
says.
Okay, then I see what it
He's slightly
was.
behind us, so perfect.
Then I see what it was. It was NDI coming from that machine.
Yeah, that was. Thanks, Walt.
Yep.
Yeah, it was exactly what it was doing to me. Totally took me by surprise because I didn't expect audio to be coming across NDI, but.
And that should have been doing it every time. I guess it's not going to be picked up in the recording, but I wonder if anybody listening live was hearing that before.
Don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
thanks,
they
Walter.
thought we were like. Maybe they thought we were like a techno photo show, yo.
So hey, now if you don't share your screen, if you stop sharing your screen, it's going to go away, right?
But I'm not. I won't. I just leave it until the end of the broadcast, just like it is. I don't do nothing with Skype. I've learned that if you touch Skype, everything blows up.
Yeah.
That's what happens. I don't do anything. I don't move screen.
It's right. It's over here, and that's it. It doesn't move from there.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Don't put a mouse near it. Don't look at it funny.
Well, Jan, hopefully it's fixed for you too, and if it's Hopefully, it hasn't been doing that for you every show.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Yeah, especially in the pre-show, if you notice something wrong, let me know. I might be able to fix it. Maybe,
Maybe.
just maybe.
And this time it worked.
And this time it worked. All right, guys. You guys ready to get rolling?
Yeah, I'm messing with my color temperature. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm going to.
I got myself look like I'm alive a little bit.
Before we get to you and your demo here, AD, I got something I wanted to show real quick.
Cool. Do it up.
Yep. Wait. Haha, glad I double checked. We're not recording on the audio. Now we are. Put this little guy away.
That's a good thing to do.
Yep. All right. All right, it's jpeg2RAW show number 232. And tonight we got special guests, as I bump my mic. Special guest, A.D. Wheeler, who is co-host with me on another show that we do, but is coming here tonight about something we talked about last week, an alternative to Lightroom and some of your photo editing if you're getting tired of this whole subscription model. Before we get to that, I wanted to show something in Lightroom, something I've run into just this weekend as I was doing some photo editing. And there's a workaround. So if you're running into the same problem, I wanted to show you what I'm doing to fix it. I didn't discover it. I discovered it by doing a Google search. But just to show you what it is. And that is, so let's say you're going to export a photo. And you have a little photo here. This one is a photo of the first time. So just a little background. We have baby bluebirds or bluebirds every year in this house here. 2 to 3 clutches a year, and this is clutch number 2, and it has been going on for at least a decade. I have never once seen the birds fledge. One day they're just all gone. Fortunately, this day I did get to see 2 of them fledge, and I knew before, I had looked in there before, because between each clutch, the bluebirds want you to take the old nest out so they can build a whole new one. They don't like the dirty one. I went to take the old one out, but they had already laid 4 eggs. So I was like, you got a dirty nest. I can't help you now. But in this photo, you can actually see, if you look really close, 3 baby birds in the house and 1 on top. Mm-hmm. So all 4 made it. But anyway, I was editing them, and I went down here to hit export. And, you go to the little dialog box. And in this case, I have chosen specific folder. And I think I even might have had put in folder and had something else chosen there. And then I hit export. And I get this little warning message that says the specified folder is not writable. I don't know if you can read that, but that's what it says. The specified folder is not writable. And I know this folder is writable. And it doesn't matter what folder I choose, all of them will give me this error. The specified folder is not writable. I am on version, you're not going to be able to read this, the 8.3 release, and it's a build with a long number in it. But I've gone, even before the show tonight, to check out, if there's an update that's fixed this, that I could update and say that the error is gone. But if you run into this error, and there wasn't an update, but if you run into this error, there's a quick workaround that you can do. You just go to export, and instead of saying specified folder, or specific folder, choose folder later. Then it says useful for presets, but just say choose folder later, then say export, and then you can choose that same folder you were going to send it to, and select, and it saved it actually. It exported. It didn't give me a dialog box. I guess it shows whatever name I had there, but it saved it to that folder, and that's the workaround to get that to work. You just can't select the thing beforehand.
Question.
Yes.
How are you starting your Lightroom? Are you starting it run as administrator?
I am not. I never have.
Okay. Give it a shot.
Give it a shot now?
Yeah, just close down Lightroom and then just right-click on the...
Let me go back to us.
Just right-click on the shortcut and select Run as Administrator.
So let's hope this doesn't break the computer as I load.
It shouldn't.
So
do
if I
anything.
right click on Lightroom, I do not get a choice of as run as administrator.
Is it just the icon that's on your desktop, or you're on the taskbar?
It's on the
or where you at?
taskbar. So you're saying maybe I need to go into the
No. If you right click on the taskbar, then right click again on the word Lightroom, it'll give you run as administrator.
It's not. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Cross some fingers. The computer doesn't.
I think what the problem is it's trying to write either to a log file or something on your C drive, and it's probably like, oh, you don't have the permission to do that when you're trying to do it, and it's.
See, I just tried that, Mike, of mine, and it doesn't do it to mine at all. And I'm on version 8.3 as well, and I was able to pick a folder I wanted. So I export.
So one of two things, Tim. I think Mike upgraded this computer to the latest version of 1903 Windows. Is that correct, Mike?
I don't think yet.
Or is that on 1803?
I think it's 1803.
Yeah, it might be just a different version of Windows, Tim. Sometimes.
Now I'm going to see what I have. Yeah, I'm still on the prior version.
Are you on 1709?
I'm 17.134.
Okay, so there's a huge difference in write permissions between those two versions of Windows. I know that for sure.
Okay.
I've struggled with this stupid run as administrator. I'm logged into my computer as an administrator. As far as I'm concerned, when I'm logged in, my computer should never doubt anything that I want to do.
Yep.
And I don't understand why you still have to flag programs as administrator. I'm like, I am the administrator. I have an administrator's account. So I've always felt that part of Windows is still broken in my mind. Mike, did that work though?
Hold on, so we're gonna try it right now.
We're gonna do it live.
Yeah, we're gonna do it live. So this is me restarting it as administrator, and I've chosen a specific folder like before.
Okay.
We're gonna say save. Nope.
Okay, still not
working.
That's weird. Now I'm on 1803 too. So let's just blow up the internet right now. I'll try my Lightroom. This is why we're doing this show, actually. It's a funny thing. We're doing this show because I think some of us are really tired of this. We're really tired.
So the little freaky thing you just saw on the stream there is whenever I killed the thing, a screen I was sharing. It did not like that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it didn't like the Skype. Skype didn't like it.
Yeah, so it should be fixed now, hopefully.
Okay, so I'll drag mine over to here. This is up to you if you want to share this. I'll just tell you which version of Lightroom I have. I have 8.3 camera raw version 11.3.
That's what I got.
Everybody running that?
And your long version number or build number look like mine too. But
okay. So if I'm just in here and I want to export this, I usually right click and do an export, but I'll do the same thing you did, which is the button down here. I'll click on the export button, and it will take its sweet time figuring out which screen it's going to bring up my export dialog on. Come on, you can do it. Mine doesn't export at all, Mike. So, there it goes. Yeah, it just opened 3 of them at once. Try to do like too many. I have many programs open. So here's mine. I have it set to specific folder, okay, which is my desktop right now. And I'm just going to export. Says there's already a shot in there, and it worked.
Huh.
So my question to you would be, you're something with write permissions in Windows. That's weird. I don't know why I've seen that problem before. You and I will talk after the show, and because I've seen that issue before, and I think I can help you.
Well, it only came up with this latest version of Lightroom. This wasn't an issue with the previous version.
Right.
Yeah, before it did the update.
Have you tried the infamous uninstall, reinstall?
I have not done that because I have found this workaround and it worked for me. And
and until they announce a fix, you might as well go with that. But yeah, I always love the tech advice. Have you tried reinstalling your entire operating system?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer that up.
I do have one other question.
Yeah.
On my Skype, all I see is 80s desktop. I don't see the normal.
So Tim, if you just grab you should see on a bar up at the top, there's like a bunch of little windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be one with the program in it.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Drag it
Drag it down to it. That's what I wasn't doing. I was clicking on it, right-clicking on it. I tried everything, and I got it.
Every other week, I have to explain to somebody the new Skype procedures, because every other week it seems like Skype changes, like
Yeah, you're right. You do.
how you get something from one place to
Oh, this is easier. So when Mike's talking about something, I don't have to look at the YouTube and realize I'm 10 seconds behind. Like, all right, where is he?
Cool. Well, Lightroom is why we're here. I
Yep.
think.
So that was just a little tip in case you're having that problem. And as we demonstrated here tonight, not everybody's having that problem. AD wasn't, but I am. So, but last week we talked AD, and I know you listened to it later on, that, there's lots of people who never liked the subscription model of Adobe. There's lots of people who are now worried about the price increases that Adobe has been hinting at. And whether those are legitimate, price increases or not, whether you like that or not. And then, some of the other things that Adobe has done, and maybe you're just tired of the whole subscription model and want to know what else is out there. And something you've talked about before, Luminar from Skylum, and something that I've been playing with a little bit too. And I have a special code for everybody that they can use to get some money off if you're looking to buy any of their products. Or some of their products. I don't know if it's any of them, but some of their products. So because I am far from knowledgeable enough to really explain Luminar, we wanted to have AD come on who could really help us out. And they've added something recently, right, AD, on because when you showed us this before, they did not have any kind of asset management, any digital asset management to the product. But we knew it was coming.
Right.
Yeah, they've added the digital asset management. They've also added a whole new reworked AI system for the AI processing that they do. It's like just the quick and awesome. You just move a slider and it makes your photo look amazing, and it does take a little bit of the fun out of photo processing. But it also, for people who are working hard and want to lighten the load a little bit, and maybe even get more work done, it's a pretty nice little slider to have in addition to everything else. But yeah, they've added digital asset management. Now, up to this point, Mike has asked me, can we do Luminar? And I've kind of refused because I didn't feel that the PC version, and I have a Mac and a PC, so I can compare these side by side. The PC version was not ready for public consumption, even though it was out in the public. I had numerous problems with it, and we'll talk about that tonight, about the problems that I have and what's been fixed and what still needs to be fixed and worked on, and how much closer are we to having something that we can move away from Lightroom. So that's basically what I have planned for discussion, and then you guys can ask questions if you want, and I'll do my best. I do want to say, Mike, before we get started, I am wearing as you pointed out pre-broadcast, I'm wearing a Skylum shirt, but I do not work for Skylum or Mac Fun, as they were called. I did at one time work for them, and I ran their podcasts and everything for them and hosted a show for them. But I am a free agent, and basically I'm like you, Mike. I'm an affiliate. I use the software, and Skylum, gives us a kickback if we sell something through our codes or something like that. But it doesn't cost anything more to anybody purchasing it, which I think is,
Right.
I don't have to, and most people will know you and I and Tim know that we don't endorse products that we don't actually use or like. And I think if anybody watches this show more than once, they know that you're going to hear our opinions on stuff.
Yep,
so,
absolutely. Yep. And that's
So
the same
if you
thing with
guys-
that code. I should have mentioned that. We do get a commission at some point if you use that code. But like you mentioned, it does not add to your cost. It's part of their marketing.
Right. And then, I mean, seriously, if what we were doing tonight was a business and we were making money off it, it would be much different than it is. We're just three guys who happen to, be able to get this stuff and share it with everybody else and hopefully make their lives a little bit easier in doing so. And you can get this software for free. You don't have to pay for it. You can download it and play with it tonight while we're doing stuff. It doesn't cost you anything to download it and play with it. And I think they give you 30 days to
I think it was 30.
yeah, I mean, give it a run, see what you think. And if you don't like it, then you're not out anything at all. So don't just take our word for it. That's the way I look at it.
Yep.
So,
All right, we're ready to get started?
I am loaded up.
Okay. I've shared your screen of a
There it
bunch of
is.
stuff.
It's a mess of mass. So essentially this is the digital asset management window, and the processing in this, I like to call it like Photoshop Lite, because it's got way more than what Lightroom has, but it has less than what Photoshop has. And I think for probably 90% of the photographers out there, sans some big retouching people, and I've seen retouchers go nuts with this thing and learn the system and do amazing things with it that I didn't think were possible. And I've watched, like Nicole Z, you've had her on the show, and she's done amazing food photography with this. And she does all the retouching and everything all in Luminar. And I look at her stuff and I go, I don't have any clue and even how you'd ever even do that in this program. And, she shows me in like 2 steps and I'm like, oh, come on, really? Like, so it's one of those programs, I think, that you learn more. The more you play with it, the more you open up new doors. And I think it's good that you can just break it out of the box and process something with a couple of sliders and be like, yeah, that looks really good. And then you can go deeper if you want to. So this is the digital asset management setup. It handles photos a little differently than Lightroom does, whereas Lightroom creates a big catalog and stores a lot of things in that catalog. Luminar kind of points at things. So these folders that I have are actually the folders that I copy off my SD card, which I have in right now. I just copied these files off before the show. And it is worth noting the system, when it's copying photos, you can't do anything. It's much like Lightroom when it's copying stuff in. Although Lightroom does now, I think, when you import something, the import thing comes up and you can work on other photos. Luminar is not like that. When it's copying photos, it wants nothing to do with anything. It will say, wait until I'm done, and then you can start processing photos. I hope in the future that will change, just simply because I like the ability to be able to work while stuff is copying, which should be a completely separate process in my mind. It does copy it over to the hard drive where you're working. And when you work on a file, it's non-destructive. Okay, so you're not actually changing your RAW file in any way, shape, or form, just like Lightroom. It's creating a sidecar file for all the settings and whatnot. And then when you want to finalize that, you export them out to a folder that you would use to send off to a client or shoot off to Facebook. Like you had a Facebook folder,
right.
you would shoot them off that way, and you can control everything the same way as you do in Lightroom. Export them as JPEGs, export them as PNGs, however you want to. All of that's in there. We'll process a photo and we'll send it out, and I'll show you kind of how that goes.
So question.
Yeah.
Right. So this Luminar is just reading the file structure on your hard drive.
Right. So
there's no catalog?
There is a catalog.
Okay.
But it's a pointer file system where it basically just says, hey, the files are over here, and this file has had this adjustments done to it. So when you load it up, it's going to read off that. So there is a cataloging system. The nice thing I like about it is that I think from my tests is that I've run across is that I've uninstalled the program and reinstalled the program. And when it uninstalls itself, the pointer file and stuff, it doesn't delete that automatically, which is nice because you can have that on a network drive or however you want. Of course, anytime, even with Lightroom, if you store catalogs on networks, it's going to be a slower process for you. I like to put my catalog files or where Luminar is doing its work on an SSD so that it has quick access, and then my regular photos are on hard drives. And if you wanted super fast access, you'll see that there'll be a little bit of wait time tonight because it is on a normal hard drive. You would put these on SSDs so your photos would just zip in and zip out. And then what I would do is copy working directories over into an SSD where I was actually working on a project. Because we don't work on all of our files all the times. a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have two SSDs, one for a catalog, one for my what I call my work disk, and then my storage disk, which is a hard drive. And when I'm working on a session, say photos from the lake or something like that, I'll copy that folder over to my SSD and I'll work off that SSD to keep everything super fast. And then when I'm done with all that, I'll copy that folder back to, and I don't have to be around for that. I mean, just copy and leave, you know. And then my backup system, which goes to my Unraid server, will copy that stuff off, you know, to my Unraid server. And I copy the catalog files and everything separately, so that way I can reassemble it. I'm not relying on pulling that stuff off my network, which is very time consuming. I mean, there are systems that will allow you to edit video over a network, but it takes a 10 gigabit connection between the machine you're working on and, you know, the server, and then, you know the logistics of that. Like
Depending on how many you shoot, you might, you know, one thing that I do, because I shoot maybe up to, if I'm doing a lot of sports, 20, 30,000 images a year, which is a lot for me.
Right.
I keep those, the current year, on an SSD on my computer. And then all prior years are on the either the server, or I think actually go to my secondary computer, and then copies are always on the server.
Right.
So that way,
and that's what I do. Yeah, both are on there. And I keep the current year. That's exactly what I do. I didn't want to make any assumptions. Anybody's like, you know, they might have 100,000 photos or whatever. You don't want to copy all those to your SSD. But yeah, and that too, a lot of people ask me, like, how do you keep your photos like organized, right? And so when you import, I want to show you the import dialog with Luminar. Let's go over that. And about that, what you're talking about, every year at the beginning of the year, I create a folder. It's called whatever year photography. That's what I call it. And then inside of that, I'll make subcategories like travel, landscape, urbex, you know, whatever I'm shooting. And if it's a project, I'll put a project name as the folder, all inside of that. And then inside of those folders will be broken down by date or location. So my travel photography has locations, and then inside of those folders, I have actual dates for all of that stuff. So so that's how I keep my hierarchy for my folders. And I'm sure, like, if you're shooting sports, might be different from that. You're shooting it by event name or whatever. I've often had people say, well, how do I go about organizing all my stuff now? Just
that's always the hardest thing.
Put the leather in and chomp down hard and go at it, because it is best if you just start from the beginning of the year doing it that way. And it's easier for people, I think, if they just, like, at the beginning of the year, they start the new year that way, and then slowly go back and maybe convert some of their old file structures to match. But at least you know the current year you're working on is, you know, nice and smooth and all kind of neat.
This does take a little more forethought, because I tell you, the way I do it now is I just let it puts it in a subfolder with the date. But I'm putting it into catalogs in Lightroom.
Yes, and then this also has that option to do that.
Okay. Yeah, because that way I'll just have every date for that year. I have it, I think, by year, then by day.
Right.
But then I'm putting them into specific catalogs. You know, like the bluebirds I just showed you, I have a catalog called animals, and underneath that I have a subcategory and such. And I'll do all that.
Yeah, I don't go too deep in.
I don't either, because of tags.
I used to, yeah. Yeah, I used to, but now I'm using dates now. It seems like dates seem to work better for me inside of at least a location. And that kind of, the minute I see the photo, I know exactly where I'm at. So yeah, but I think that's a very personal thing. I think it's whatever makes you more comfortable with it. Yeah, what works.
I'm very close to what you do, AD. I have a year, 2019 photographs, and in that it is 2019-01 or 05-28, and then the name of what it is.
There you go.
So I don't have and I probably don't take nearly as many pictures as you do, so it's more of an event, and I can probably figure out, all right, I took pictures somewhere between May and June last year, and I find it real quick, and then I do try and keyword right away, because if I don't keyword it right away, and I was at a Memorial Day parade yesterday and came home, uploaded the pictures, put them in there. If I don't do it and I wait, who knows when I'm going to do it or if I'm going to do it.
Right. So yeah, let's talk about that, Mike, if you want to share.
Yep.
So just on import, if you come up here to the little import icon, I know these are kind of small for people to see. But there's a little import arrow here and import images. Now you do have the option too, if you saw up there, if you already have a folder structure, you can just add a folder on a hard drive as it is. And just add that in. So if you've already got your stuff copied over from your SD card out of your camera and you've already got a folder structure for Lightroom, which is what I have, you can add a folder here, or you can actually add a folder over on the right-hand side with the little plus button over here. But first what we're going to do is we're just going to, I'm going to import images in. Now I've already imported my images in here, but I'm just going to show you what the dialog offers up. You've got to browse, so it just brings up the normal dialog for browsing to your PC, finding the drive, and the one thing it doesn't do is it actually doesn't allow you to pick the photos, though. So on import, yeah, it's a little different. So I can pick this, but I can't pick individual photos to bring in. Kind of forces you to make sure that those cards are clean. Otherwise, you're going to get dupes when you load them in. So here we got, I've selected that folder that's on, I know that's the folder that my RAW files are in. I can import it to, now this one took me by surprise because I didn't see any drives, and it doesn't work that way. It basically gives you the names of all of the folders that you have already created here. So we don't have the option here to import this to a brand new folder at this point in time. We have to have created the folder over here in folders first. So there's no option to do that here. So it's a little different from Lightroom. Now, a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to be like, well, I don't like that. Remember, you're making your assumption on what you've done in Lightroom. You might find after doing it a few times, you're like, actually, this makes more sense to me. So I always urge people, the program, like we said before, free to download, just get it and play with it. And see and give it a shot. Just give it a shot. I personally would like to see it give me the raw. Like I'm on PC for a reason. Okay, I like to control where things are going. I like to know the drive that it's in. I like to be very precise with where things are happening. Whereas I notice on the Mac, it's a little bit more like, oh, just throw that over there. It'll be over there whenever you're looking for it, and over there is fine. But we're not going to say it's like on your C drive. It's just over there. That's kind of
I
like
want to
the
hide
Mac.
some of that stuff from you.
Well, yeah, it is. It is what happens on a Mac quite often. And that philosophy with Luminar. Now, Luminar started as they were first Mac Fun, so they started out as programs for the Mac environment only, and then they branched into PC. One of the things that I liked that they brought over was some of that photo creation philosophy from the Mac. I always thought it was cool that when I worked on Luminar originally on the Mac, I just felt kind of more free with my photo creation, and things seemed to go a lot smoother, and I didn't know why that was. And it was just in the design philosophy of the program was different. So it takes a little bit of right brain thinking when you're in Luminar. They want you to be more creative. So some of this taking out the drive number and all of this kind of stuff is they're kind of putting off a flag in your head that says, you're thinking a little too much. Stop thinking. Like that's kind of what they're saying here. So it took me a little bit to figure out how they were doing this. But essentially, once I created the folder over on this side and I was organized, then I was allowed to bring photos in. I think that's a good philosophy. Like, just don't throw them in there. Like, you might get it wrong and you might be like, where do my photos go? I don't know. So this really keeps things, I think it keeps things more organized. That's my take on it.
And I like how I was showing you on the right, over there on the far right, I guess that's a count of the number of images in the folder.
Over on the right, where are we
far
looking?
right. Go all the way more to the right.
Okay. Oh, yeah. It shows you the folders that are in, the counts that are in each folder.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so let's just say that I wanted to bring these in. Now, I'm not going to copy these images right now because we don't want to just sit here and stare at Luminar while it copies images in, and I've already done that. But I was just copying these in to 2019 photography because that's what this was from. I'm copying. I have the chance to move or copy. You know that the safe thing is always to copy your images. If you move them, they'll be moved. If there's an error, the files will be deleted, even if there's an error, and then you're going to lose what's there. That's the general idea. So I
highly
always
recommend
copy.
you never move.
Right. I copy, and then the next time I shoot on my camera, I'll erase my card at that point. That way I've got a nice long window if I screw things up, which I'm pretty well noted to do. So so that just gives me a little insurance on there. So I would copy those over. And then this is nice. Under Organize, it allows you to organize just copy and bulk into one folder, or you can keep the existing file structure. So if you have your camera set up to copy things by date into dated folders, this will retain that inside of that. It'll also allow you to copy into folders by year, month, day, or by just year and month, which I think is great. That it'll allow you not to go like all the way down to the day. Oh, this is the stuff I shot in July. You know, and a lot of times that's good. Sometimes, like for me traveling, and when I'll do like if I travel for say 13 days on the road, I will do it by all the way down to the day because I want to know where I was on that specific day, because I basically coordinate that with Google Maps in my timeline, and that allows me to get map data exactly where I was standing when I took that shot by using my Google timeline, because that tracks where my phone was at. So I can use those dates and cross-reference locations, names, history, just about anything I want on Google by doing that, by having those exact dates and times. Now you can always look at the date and everything on the file. It's always still going to be there on the metadata afterwards. So that's totally up to you. For me, it's just quicker for me to just see that date and go to my timeline and boom, I'm there, without having to do an extra couple of clicks. So when you're done with that, include your subfolders if there's any subfolders inside, and import, and it will go to town and bring those files in. And that will physically copy them to the folder that we created over here on the right. So when you see folders over here, you can go ahead and click on plus over there. Now, if we wanted to just add a folder, that's where we would do it, is that way. That's the easiest way. I try to stay out of menus as much as possible. And I would just go to, let's see, we want to add in, now I'm not going to do this as well because we don't want to sit here and wait for it to add all of my folders from, say, 2015, which I have a lot of folders for that. But I could add, let's just say, let's add, man, I got to stay away from the, let's just add this one. I know there's not a lot of not a lot of files in here. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. It will create an image gallery, and here they all come just like that. So this was the main reason why I would not do this demo until they got this all figured out, because this was a mess. It would import, and then I would close down Luminar. Next time I went to load it up, Luminar would just sit there, and it would stay on the splash screen. It could not handle large amounts of files. They've fixed that problem now on the PC. Now, it was never a problem on the Mac. It was always fine, but it was a problem on the PC, and that's been fixed now. You can import huge amounts of files if you want to. And you can see it brought them in fairly quick.
Yeah.
And that was actually an ad, though. Keep in mind, all it's doing is adding previews here. We're not copying files. Copying files has to do with the speed of your SD card reader and the drive that it's copying to. Really, it has nothing to do with Luminar at all, or Lightroom, but for that matter. You can yell all you want at Lightroom, but there's very little going on when it's importing files, unless you're having massive amounts of processing done on the import, which some people do that. They do basic adjustments on import. If you do that, you can expect that your imports are going to take a long time. That feature is not available in Luminar. You cannot do a mass application of anything on the way in. What is done on the way in is lens correction and camera profiling. So it does that automatically. And it doesn't put that in the hands of the end user, by the way. It's all done on the import. So if there's any corrections to be done, you can do that in the develop module if you saw that it didn't get it right. But they have profiles preloaded into the system, automatically applied, never have to look at them, never have to deal with them. Part of their philosophy is on that we would rather have you creating and not worrying about such things.
Yeah, I so often forget to do that until later in the edit. And crap.
Well, and I will tell you, Mike, and for a lot of people, they'll get hung up on that. They'll get hung up on, well, I can't apply my lens correction. It's like, it's already been done. Relax.
Mm-hmm.
You need to relax and just enjoy processing your photos. And I think that's their hard message. And it's hard for a lot of PC guys. I gotta tell you, being on PC my whole life, it's all been about like I can control this feature and I can design this feature the way I want to, and I can do this the way. It's all about tweaking things exactly the way you want it with a PC. And it's a little bit of that philosophy is coming over with Luminar. So anybody who gets it should really be prepared for that kind of philosophy change. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. The less time we spend tweaking on things, the more time we create, the better your stuff is going to be in the long run. That's just my opinion. But so
okay,
we any questions about getting the files into before I start talking about galleries or albums as they're called here on Luminar?
So just real quick, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it.
Yep.
One of the things I do when I bring it in, I didn't see this as an option, so I'm assuming it's not, is anytime I'm bringing images into Lightroom, I'm also using the feature of a second copy. So immediately coming off my card, it's going to the SSD I talked about before, where I'm going to do the edit, and a copy is being sent over to my server. So that second, you know, in Lightroom where you can do the second copy somewhere else.
I didn't know that of that feature. I've never done it that way.
Oh, so like right from the beginning, I already have 2 copies of every image coming off my card. So if something went bad, I have those second copies from Lightroom. You got 3 coming off the card? What do you...
I hate to correct your math on the fly, but you're actually making 3 copies of your files because your SSD is not getting erased. So you have 1 on the SSD, 1 on your hard drive, 1 on your server.
1 on the SD card. Yes.
Yeah. Because you're not erasing these on the way in, right?
Correct. I am not moving.
Yeah. So you're actually making 3 copies.
One of those copies, the one on the SD card, is going to be going away shortly.
Yeah. So that's a matter of personal taste. Like for me, when I'm ready to edit photos, I'm not waiting for any network copies to go on. I wouldn't. I couldn't do it. I've got to get in there and get grinding on it. And then if there's a problem with a file in the middle of that, I know I have my SSD there that's already got copies on it. That's my philosophy. My copies get done overnight. They don't get done during my production time. But that's personal, like what you want to do that way can't be done in Luminar.
Okay.
And so that's a feature that I think that guys like yourself and myself that have direct connections to the devs and contacts that we can make to Skyloom themselves, those are suggestions that they need to hear. Because I think that for production studios and whatnot, that's a very important feature that I wouldn't personally use, but I can totally understand where that would be something that would be needed to do, is to make a couple copies at the same time. Right now, I don't think they do it because the copy is done live, and you have to wait until the copy is done. Whereas in Lightroom, you have to wait till the files are all in there. But if, say, you want to work on the early files, you can go into that folder and start working on them immediately while the copy is still going on in the background, filling in the rest of the files.
Right.
Now, if it was one of the last shots that you took and you wanted to work on that, of course you couldn't, because you have to wait till it's actually loaded onto your computer to work on it. So Luminar, though, doesn't do it that way. They make you wait until the copy's done before you're allowed to use the program again. And that, again, I think is them not understanding the PC architecture and the way that it works a little bit. And the difference, again, between the Mac and the PC setup. And so that's a suggestion that users have to cry out for, because Skyloom is a very small company. They're not like Adobe. I can count the developers on one hand.
Really?
Yeah. The guys who are doing the developing, I think there's 3 main developers of this system.
Wow.
So there's 3 main guys coding their,
butts off.
Yeah, their butts off. Let's put it that way. And so they will do their best. I have sent things to them and gotten fixes back within a few days of things that I've noticed. And it's not me; they're not just getting it from me. I mean, it's just I submit feedback with everybody else, so my feedback is in there with everybody else. Now, if a feature like the copy is heard by enough people, dual copy, they will most certainly implement something that will do that for you. But I mean, if it's something like, I wish the slider was over here on the left side instead of the right, can we make it so we can put the slider on? You're probably not going to get that sort of feature change. They have a philosophy behind the program's design and layout that they're sticking with. But things like that, the copy thing and a couple other features, I would definitely submit a ticket and let them know what you want to. And the more people we can get to do that, and the more we can get our communities to do that, the more you'll see those features be implemented down the road. And the thing I like is those features are free. If you're into Luminar 3 and you're grandfathered into the updates that come out. Now I'm on 3.1 right now, that just came out here, I think a couple of weeks ago. And that was, it was totally free. 2018, if you own that, you got an upgrade at the time to Luminar 3 for free. And I think if you own 2018, you can also get the new Luminar Flex, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. You can get that for free if you're on, even if you don't have Luminar 3, you can get Luminar 3 Flex for free if you owned 2018. So, yeah. And if you're a Luminar family person, so if you're on 2017 or just Luminar or any of the program, MacFun, any of that stuff, if you're in the family, you get a discount when you buy an upgraded version that they're charging for. So that's
and like you said, if you're used to Lightroom, this doesn't need to be an exact copy of Lightroom. You got to maybe change some of your thinking and your workflow a little bit to suit this, because you've changed it to suit Lightroom at some point.
Absolutely.
Before Lightroom, your workflow wasn't Lightroom's workflow; it was something else.
Exactly. Yeah, and for a long time, for a lot of us, it's hard, especially if you have a business and you're relying on it and you've got to jump ship and you're thinking, oh man, I got to learn this whole new system. The thing that I've taught people with Luminar, and I use Lightroom too, guys. But I want to I want to leave it behind. I really don't want to pay the money anymore. And that's just, again, my personal feeling. For me, though, I got to try something out for a good long time before I say, okay, you know what? That one feature, how much do I really use that one feature in Lightroom?
Sure.
And can I get by without it? Is it something that I don't need? Those are the questions that you want to ask after you've had a good chance to get your feet wet with the new software. And Luminar, what I teach people is you can design Luminar, you can set up a workspace so that it looks just like Lightroom. So you're immediately going to be a little bit more comfortable than if you were just trying to learn a program like On1, which is completely different. It's a great piece of software. The On1 RAW processing is great, but it's very difficult for me to run over there and play with that, or Topaz Studio. I love them both, but I'm not comfortable with my edits. If I need to get a project done, I'm in Luminar or I'm in Lightroom at this point. I can't use those other programs. If I've got a long time to work on an image, that's a different story. I'll call up the Topaz. I'll call it, and or if I'm experimenting and not working on a project, those programs are great. But they're a lot harder, I should say, to work into those, I think, than Luminar is. I thought Luminar transition was very easy for me to make. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about albums. Albums are another feature. I haven't used these at all because I organize my folders. Now, keep in mind, you can just dump all your folders into one big giant folder if you want to from your SD cards. I don't recommend that, but you can do it. And then you can create an album. And I think when you're creating an album, and I haven't done this before, it allows you to select photos and then create the new album. So I've created like 3 albums here, and we're just going to get rid of these albums. And if you notice when I go to delete it, it says that, are you sure you want to delete this album? The album will be permanently deleted from your albums. That's always scary. But then it says the photos and their edits will remain in your library. So these are just basically a way to make a collection of photos. So let me do one really quick. let me just pick this. We'll pick Wells Falls down here. And I think what I can do is I can pick a set of files. So let's say I want to select all those. I just clicked on the first one, hold down the Shift key, click on the last one. It selects all of them for you at that point. You can then set a flag on all of those at the same time. You can change ratings, color labels. You can rotate every image if you want to. Don't recommend that. You can also make mass adjustments here.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, you can copy adjustments from the photo that's highlighted and then paste them to all the other photos if you want to. Or you notice we can export a multiple of photos at a time. I will tell you, before 3.1, you could only do one photo at a time.
Right.
And I called them up. I'm like, dudes, you can't be telling people you're serious about this if I can only export one photo at a time. There are people that definitely have to export massive amounts of photos at once. You've got to make this, and they did. They definitely were like, yeah, this is something we must have overlooked. And I can create an album. So if I create an album here, it'll take just a second. The album will pop up there with a name. We can call it, Wells Complete. And once that's done, now whenever I want to work on those folders, I can go ahead and work on that particular image. They'll be up here in albums. And everything is pretty much the same as it is, but it allows you to work on images outside of the folders in case you're nervous about working directly in the folders. And you can compact those up. You don't have to look at them anymore. Whatever edit that I make in here, if I make an adjustment to this, it's actually going to change it in the album and also in the folder, but not to the physical file, which I think is the important part of it. Everything is non-destructive, so you can go back 10 years later and just remove your adjustments if you want to and start over on the image.
So that's just like collections, regular
just
collections.
Like collections. It's exactly what it's like, collections.
Right, and I like that, because if you took 100 pictures and you only like 20, you want to work on those 20, so you put them into a folder, and these are the ones that I plan on sending out to my friends or something.
Exactly. You've got the folder, the current collection of images that you're working on right now to stay focused on what you're doing, and then you can export that entire folder out to the client or whatever you want to do at that point. Also included in this are recently edited.
Mm-hmm.
So
And recently added too, right above it,
right.
I see.
And then recently added. And then if you notice, recently added has a little down arrow. Recently added by
there
date.
You go. I like that.
So history. Now all of this information is included in your catalog. That's what the catalog in Luminar is using to store, is just basically pointers and things to help you with your workflow, rather than the actual a preview of the file and all this kind of stuff going on. So that's pretty much it for that. And then you can see up here, there's all photos that are currently being cataloged, 13,267, and we're moving through those fairly quickly. So they've totally fixed that issue that was out there with the very slow edits. And that pretty much is the digital asset management system. Now, one of the things that I know you're going to ask me about, Mike, is whether or not keywords and all of that kind of stuff. And no, there are no keywords that I can find in here. That's one of the things that I don't know if that's another feature that's coming. Honestly, like I said, I haven't really... I haven't worked with Skyloom one-on-one in over a year, so I've just been kind of freelancing it. So the only information I get is what comes across my affiliate program, where they let us know, oh, here's the new feature that's coming. Don't talk about this until this date. You're under NDA, all this kind of stuff. I get that sort of thing, and I have not seen any insider talk about doing anything with keywording or any of that stuff. Now, you might be like, well, how does that work when I upload my photos? Keep in mind that keywording for photos on the internet is no longer really a thing anymore. AI is pretty much dealing with most photo identification in search engines anymore. And because keywording was abused and was causing search engine failure, because things weren't. So they developed programs that could actually look at the keywords, then look at the photo and say, is that what's in the photo? And now basically they've moved away from keywording altogether. And most search engines now are identifying photos by an AI system looking at them.
Yeah, for me, keywording was just my personal use inside
Yes.
Lightroom for searching and stuff.
Right.
And organizing.
There may be a workaround for that makes it that might work easier with this new recently added thing or something like that. But I don't foresee it because there was no keywording on bringing the files in any of that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I don't know though. It might be a future thing that's coming. So don't be like, oh, well, I'm not going to do it because
We already have Luminar 3, so I'm already playing with it. And I know we got other things to go over, so we want to wrap up Luminar 3. But I do have, if we can go into the develop module real quick, I have a few questions there.
Yes, let's go into the edit tab. So the photo that I was currently on was automatically brought into the edit. This is part of a bracket, by the way, if you're wondering why it's so dark.
Yeah. I saw you had lots like that. So one of the things I do, and I guess on your left-hand side of the screen there is the images. So assume this wasn't part of a bracket.
Right.
One of the things I do is, let's say I've got a series of shots and I'm shooting a sporting event. A series of shots that are pretty close to the same. It's I may shoot them in spurts of several shots in a row.
Okay.
So I'm going to edit the first one for color and for exposure and for things like that, and then I want to copy those edits to the next 4, 5, 9, whatever it is, images, so I can make that faster. Is that something I can do here in Luminar?
Yeah, you can actually do that one of two different ways. So, for instance, if I want to edit this photo, and I'd be like, oh, geez, I wish this photo looked better, and I just move this slider like that and went, oh, wow, it looks better.
And that's the AI thing?
That's the AI, the new AI thing.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty ridiculous is what that is. So once I make adjustments to the photo, I can go ahead and right click on the photo, and then I can go to adjustments and then say copy the adjustments, and then go back to this is what I like, is I can, basically what I'll do is go to adjustments, hit copy adjustments, go back to the grid system in my library, and then I can make these larger, by the way. I can make these as large as, I think it goes to largest. Yeah, there we go. I can go through and say, okay, I'd like to copy it to that one, to this one, to this one. Let's deselect that. I'll go here. I want to copy it to there. Let's do this one here. That's dark. I'd like to fix that. I'd like to fix this one. This one's dark. Let's fix that one. And let's fix that one. And then right click. And under adjustments, I can now paste adjustments, and it will go through and do all of those for me automatically. And we'll see how long it takes here to get that adjustment in.
Is it giving us a timer?
No, I don't think it did.
Progression bar?
Nope, not yet. And I might have not copied the adjustments, so let me just make sure I copied it again. Copy, paste. Oh, there it goes.
There it goes. There it goes. Yep.
It was thinking. So it went through. I mean, now I can't tell which ones it did it to.
Which one did you select?
So I can tell though, because it has a little adjustment icon up here in the upper left-hand corner, which tells me that it has been adjusted. So as I scroll down through, I can see this image here has been adjusted. This one, and so on.
Okay.
So yeah, it just takes a second to think about it. But yeah, and I think the amazing thing, I double click, by the way, to move it into the adjustment. The other way that you can do this is if you've got something that's a little bit more difficult to work on, and let's just pick another photo like this guy. Say I want to do a bunch of different things, like adjustments to that basically are more in depth than just a one slider thing, because I know people are going to be interested in that. So we got a photo here. It's tilted a little bit. I can go into crop and change that and get that straightened out. And basically, as I'm making these adjustments to everything, we'll put a little AI boost on here. We'll do a little sky adjustment if we can. Let's bring in a couple of filters, a couple that I kind of I use all the time. We can do a raw develop, because I've been working on raw images, by the way, and they are 42 megabyte images that we just edited those copy those adjustments to. So say we're going to adjust a little bit of the, want to bring this up, make it a little warmer, do all the things that we do, that sort of stuff. Shadows already look good. I mean, AI does a wonderful job of just balancing the image really nicely. Look at a before and an after. A really well lit image.
Yes.
That didn't start out that way. But say we want to let's add some details. Now, the one thing I like about Luminar that I don't have in Lightroom, and a single reason for me to use Luminar over Lightroom, is this details enhancer setup. This will do sharpening through contrast adjustments and no sharpening. So there's no noise involved with this. There's no, it's not taking and doing any anti-aliasing or any of that sort of stuff. It's actually sharpening through contrast only. So it's a localized adjustment throughout the image. I usually like this to do just a simple, like a 14 by 4 adjustment is usually my go-to. And you can see it's a very subtle change, but just enough to make that image kind of tack sharp.
Is there a masking that you can do with that sharpening?
Yeah, you can mask any of the, so this is the other thing that's wonderful. Every single filter, you can put an individual mask on. Every single filter that you have, you can click on the little brush, you can do a radial mask, you can do a gradient mask, and you can do a luminosity mask on every single filter. And then you can create a new layer on top of that and do it all again, over and over and over again. You can do as much layered processing as you want. So it's a really nice feature to be able to do that. Or you can do the whole, you can actually do the whole, you can mask the whole layer itself if you want to. So underneath, let's see, underneath the workspace, filters, let me just see here. We got to get up there. So we have up here, we have image mapping. We have blending. We can do all that for this layer. And then I think there's an actual filter amount, down here that we can control how much of this, all of the filters at once are actually
okay, so that I've
image.
played with that when I didn't realize that that's for all of the filters for that layer.
Yep, it does all of them for this layer. Yep.
Okay. So one of the things I couldn't figure out how to do too is you see the little whatever those filters are at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, these
Once
guys
I
on
hit
here, yep.
once I hit one of those, I didn't know how to undo it. Like, crap, I don't want that. Get rid of that thing.
Okay, yeah, so a couple different ways. You can just use the undo button if you want to just undo where you're at. So I think that's in the history now. I think what they've done is they've moved it to, yes, so I think, where is it? History. There is a history button here somewhere. I'll find it.
Yeah, I
They've
had
moved
trouble
it.
finding it too.
It's right there.
There you go.
It's a little time clock. Go figure, right? It looks like a clock.
But what if
So
it's not? What if it's not the last item? So it's like you can undo the last thing, but what if it's 3 things ago?
Well, that's the thing with the history. You can. It's a step-by-step process.
Okay.
So let's just say I have this image the way I want to, and then I'm like, oh, this preset looks really nice, and I hit it, and I'm like, it loads it up, and then I'm like, well,
I don't like that.
you know what? I like my edit better. You can come up here to the time clock, and you can actually go back to the last thing that we did, which was this filters amount right there, and then that'll reload back to that spot.
Okay.
So it's like a smart undo. You just don't go backwards and forwards through the list. You actually can go anywhere in the list that you want to.
Is
that
there?
make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Without using the history thing, is there a way to undo that filter?
The preset that
The
I
preset,
added?
yeah, the preset.
Well, I just did through using the history.
Right.
This right here, I think undoes everything.
Okay.
Yeah, that went all the way back to the beginning. Now, if you hit that by accident, I can easily go back to the final edit that I liked by just hitting that, and it's going to go through and redo it. If you're wondering if there's just one key that will just undo everything that you did, you can do that by either changing your workspace, by clearing your entire workspace out, which will go back to the beginning. You won't have any filters or anything in there, or reloading one of your pre-made workspaces that are defaulted. So that would send everything back to the defaults, but give you all the filters preloaded. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can undo a change. I'm not sure. Let me just try, because I haven't done this before. Yes. So Control Z,
I was just going to ask you that. That's
which is something that we're very used to using,
Yes.
works to undo
Everything?
and redo.
Okay.
So undo and redo. So if you undo and you're like, oh crap, I didn't mean to undo that, undo it again, it goes back to what you just did.
Well, but in that case, Control Z is not step back once; it's step back all the way.
No, it's step back once,
Okay.
and then step forward once.
Okay, good.
So it's one of the two, yeah.
All right. The other thing I was going to mention that when I'm editing, let's say I'm shooting a basketball game inside of a gym, and I got a weird thing because gyms are never evenly lit. Is at one end of the gym, I'm shooting at one ISO because I'm shooting in manual mode but auto ISO.
Okay.
So one end of the gym, I'm shooting at one ISO. At the other end of the gym, I'm shooting at a really different ISO. So often what I will do is when I pull up the shoot, I will sort them and I'll say I only want to look at these ISOs. So I'm only looking at, let's say, the highest ISOs, and then I'm going to edit those for noise and basically apply that. When I'm happy with one image at that ISO, apply that noise edit to all of them, and then do that for the other ones. Is there any way that I can do that when I go in and look at images?
So it looks to me like the filtering possibilities here that we have are favorites, rejected, all that kind of stuff, and then edited photos that we've edited, and then capture time. And it looks like under that we can only really go by what they allow here, which is edit time, rating, pick, color label, and whatnot as far as sorting goes.
So not yet, but maybe.
So not yet. Yeah, I don't think that there's any possible way to just say I only want to see all photos that are at ISO
12,000.
Yeah, or 12,000.
800. I would love for a gym to allow me to go to 800.
Well, you got to get with those gyms that allow auto flashing and have the flashes built into the ceiling, right?
The only time I'm at ISO 800 is when I'm outside.
Yeah, right. Exactly, for speed.
All right. Yeah, good.
So that basically is most of the edit features. You can save your own presets quite easily. You also get a literal ton of presets for free, including my analog effects, which are fun. They're kind of copies of the old color effects stuff from Nick software, but don't tell them that because that's a product again, apparently. But yeah, so they give you all of these, and then you can go to the website. One of the things I also like is that the help is actually built into the website, so you can actually access your Skyloom account here. So you can log in, register quick access. You can go right to your pages for software, for your keys and everything. You can find all of that information right from the drop-down menu. We can check for updates. You can also look at a user guide, and if you click on that, it will actually take you to the user guide that they've developed for this. That's online, and it goes through step by step of showing you exactly how to use every feature in the program. So it's quite nice to.
That's nice.
To be able to
buying a book.
Yeah. It's and they've got videos to help you out with a lot of it. I mean, it's really well. It's it's done by Richard Harrington. It's really well laid out and really well done.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think that there's any other sorting abilities. Mike, I know you can turn like on and off certain things if you don't want to see like the film strip. If you want to you don't want to see side panels or the current photo actions, all of that kind of stuff. You can turn off presets at the bottom if you don't want those. If you really want to just see the image full on. And then the other thing I like too is in filters, you can star filters that you use a lot, so they're super easy to find. And you can also you can sort it by your favorites as well. So you can just, if you don't want to dig deep into the filters, you can just be like, hey, I want to have the filters I use all the time right there real quick for me to get to. And then finally, under custom workspaces, this is what I was talking about, and the last thing I want to cover with you guys is that I set up a Lightroom custom workspace. And this basically was set up to match what you normally see in Lightroom. It doesn't have everything, but it also has things that Lightroom doesn't have. But the whole idea here basically is just to make you feel comfortable about using the program, so that if you are a Lightroom user, super easy for you to get in here and just design a quick workspace and
So no, we're running a little long, and we still want to talk a little bit about a Flex, Luminar Flex. But one thing I wanted to mention before we leave that. Oh, we just left it, but we don't have to have it up.
No, we're coming right back. Hold on.
It's okay. We don't have to have it up.
I'm loading up the Flex.
Okay. So one of the things I noticed when I was working on the same image in both Lightroom and Luminar was that they look different. The Lightroom one's brighter and the Luminar one was darker.
Yes.
And I'm on a calibrated monitor, which I calibrated right before I did any of the edits.
Yes. It is the difference in RAW processing engines. And I was told, super secret information here, when I was working the booth for Skyloom, I had talked to one of the developers, and Lightroom is based on the Adobe system. So their camera RAW and the way that they treat raw data is based on their own super secret profile. So they basically develop this color profile when they load things in, based upon your camera make and all this kind of stuff when they load it in. Luminar has its own thing going on. So what Luminar's engine uses, from what I've been told, is there was a long lost color process that was very popular and was sought after quite a bit. Adobe tried to get a hold of it, but this guy wouldn't sell. And apparently Luminar had acquired this process. Now, you might ask me what that process is, and I cannot remember, to be honest with you. I was kind of sworn to secrecy when I was told about it. And so I think at the time I was like, all right, I need to not try to remember this. And I believe it was successful, and I didn't. But it was a process that was named after the guy who developed it, named it after his daughter.
Okay.
And so essentially what this color process is supposed to be very natural and it isn't enhanced in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of times in the music business, when we would, was interesting when I was mixing songs, and I'm sure you may know this from just your studio alone, one of the things that you can run into with speakers, especially desktop speakers, is they're designed to output a certain level of bass and a certain level of treble. And they're designed to make any music sound better than it really is, to fill the room with sound. Bose is well known for sculpting sound, taking one thing, intelligently looking at it, and projecting it into the room as what they feel is the perfect sound. When we work in a recording studio, it was very important that we tuned the room. So it was very important that we measured the room with scientific equipment. We would tune the room by using different sorts of wall treatments. Sometimes it meant I had built a couple of Helmholtz resonator boxes, which were walls that had slats in them. Each slat was a specific distance apart with a waveform catching foam behind it. And when a particular wave was spiking in the room, you would design this slat so when the wave hit this wall, it would be sucked into this wall and couldn't get out. So effectively, the wall would tune the room. And this would allow us to flatten the room so that we weren't getting any colorization of the sound. And then we had to buy speakers that also were uncoloring, and they don't sound all that great until you process your music through them. And what you get from that is music that sounds good on every system, and not just the system that you're processing on, which was very important when you're mixing music. Try to explain that to a musician. They totally don't get it or understand it. I used to just be like, listen to it. If it sounds good, everything's fine. So it's the same way with Luminar. Their philosophy was that we don't want to enhance your images when it's loaded into the program. We want to keep it very basic. I think Adobe controls a little bit more there, where Luminar is like, this is the process, this is what we have. It's a very secretive thing. In finding there is no standard in raw processing. If you go look it up on Wikipedia and you look at raw, nobody will listen to anybody else. They're all like, every camera company believes that their raw is the best, and then every software developer is like, no, we do it the best. And so Luminar has their thing, Lightroom has their thing, and that's probably why you're seeing
So
difference there.
yeah, so in
between-
this case, when I see the Lightroom one being lighter and the Luminar one being darker, if I do my edits, let's say I don't do anything to exposure, but I do the rest of my edits and export the images as a JPEG to put out on the web, or
Right.
maybe, or if I'm going to print them. But let's just talk about putting out on the web.
Mm-hmm.
Is that result going to end up looking different too? I mean, am I going to have the Luminar one being darker? So
no. I mean, it is what you see is what you get.
So I'm going to need to bump up the exposure in the Luminar one to make it look the same as I am in the Lightroom one.
You could. I would highly suggest just grabbing the AI slider and bumping it up halfway.
Okay.
If you want, I think the difference is like when you move that AI slider, it's kind of doing what
Lightroom's doing on the import.
Yeah, without not giving you a choice though.
Okay.
Like not giving you a choice to do that. I also think too that Lightroom may be importing the JPEG preview in the RAW, where I don't believe that Luminar does that. The preview that you see is generated from the raw data and not from the stored JPEG that's in the RAW file. So every RAW file can be imported with the JPEG embedded in it. So I would think that probably has something to do with it too. But I'm not the guy to ask. That would be something that definitely I would take both of those images. And I just know that when you import something into Lightroom, a color process is applied to it automatically, whether you tell it to or not.
Right.
If you go into the develop, you look at the bottom, there's like 3 or 4 different color processes there, and it always selects the latest one. And also, if you have it on setting your auto camera profile and all that stuff, it also makes adjustments for that as well. I don't know if it brings in DRO automatically, which it would, if Lightroom does bring in dynamic range optimization, which is, in case you're wondering, is only applied to the JPEG preview. It's never applied to the raw data. The only reason you would ever see that in Lightroom is if Lightroom is bringing in the data from the JPEG and says, oh, this guy had DRO on, let's put that in his image as well, where Luminar will not do that.
Okay.
So
all right,
that's
so
an adequate explanation.
Yep, good. All right, so now we're going to talk about Luminar Flex.
Yeah, really quick.
This is new.
Right. So a lot of people didn't like the digital asset management. They really wanted the features of Luminar 3, which was the new AI and some of the new setup features and the new layout over Luminar 2018. And they wanted to be able to integrate it as a plugin with Lightroom and with Photoshop. So essentially, this version is for people who don't want the digital asset management in Luminar. They just want Luminar. I don't care about digital asset management. Get Luminar Flex. That's all. That's the only difference. So with this, you just drag and drop your images in, edit them, go to town, and just drag an image in from the desktop. It loads in. That's it. You can make your adjustments. All of your stuff that's in here, right now it's image aware, but you can save workspaces. You can copy them off from Luminar 2018, bring them in here, do all that stuff, and then just export the image when you're done, and that's it.
So is this non-destructive as well then?
It's non-destructive if you save it. So that's the thing that I like the difference between Luminar 3.1 with the digital asset management system over Flex is that if I want to save the edit here and then come back to it later, I have to save this file as a .luminar file, which is their own proprietary layered system. So now I've got the original RAW and I've got this extra file, whereas you just have a sidecar file with Luminar with the
3.1.
3.1.
Right, I prefer that.
I do too. Like I don't, and that's just a personal thing. But I got Flex because I wanted to see what it was about. I wanted to see, what the differences were. I will sometimes use Flex if I'm working in Lightroom, and I just want to bounce out to. I want the features of Luminar. I'll load it in from Lightroom, and then bounce it right back into Lightroom with the edit done to it. So that would be where you'd want to use Flex, or if you wanted to use it with On1 or something like that, that you want to add it as a plugin. That's basically what Flex is all about. It doesn't have the weight of Luminar 3.1. It's just basically a lightweight version. No missing features other than the digital asset management, though. So that's it. There's all there is to it. Simple.
Very good. Thank you, AD.
Yeah,
that rundown. And I
pleasure.
wanted to mention that if you're interested in Luminar or Aurora, which is their HDR program, or Flex, or they even have a new product called Air Magic. If you're interested in any of those, you can use the code jpeg2RAW, as we have it here up on the screen, jpeg2RAW, and you'll receive $10 off Luminar 3, Luminar Flex, and Aurora HDR, and 20% off of Air Magic. So use that code if you're interested in buying any of those products.
Yeah, and Air Magic is designed specifically for drone photography.
Right.
So the whole, it's kind of streamlined for that. I want to say too, Mike, for those who haven't tried it, the new Aurora HDR is off the hook amazingly good. The last version of Aurora I was kind of down on, and we didn't like it. It had some problems. Whatever those problems are, they have resolved them. The sharpness issues, everything with the latest HDR program from Aurora is amazing.
Yep, and I need to update mine. I have Aurora 2018. Is that what I have?
Yeah, that one is problematic as far as its processing. And speaking of Walter, I kind of handed off to him because he has a keen eye for that sort of stuff, and he tried 2018 and brought up a few questions, and I looked deeper into it, and I moved those questions onto the dev team from him, and in the latest version of Aurora HDR, all of that stuff has been wiped away. It's all, I'm very happy with the images. I'm a 32-bit Lightroom to Photomatix guy, and I process in Aurora now pretty standardly as my HDR. So
yeah, I need to update mine. So head on over to Skylum, SKYLUM.com, and here you got Luminar, Aurora, the new version of Aurora.
Yeah, incredible. Just so many, so nice, and the color and everything is just absolutely amazing.
And Air Magic, which is for drones, if you're into drones. Yep. Give that a second. There you go. You can see the before on the before on the left side, the after on the right side. Quite a dramatic difference.
Yeah. Their AI processing engine is disgustingly phenomenal. It doesn't just do color, by the way. A lot of people are wondering if it just does like exposure, color, that sort of thing. It actually deals with sharpness, blurriness, the whole 9 yards. Now, it's not going to take an image that's completely out of focus and put it in focus. But it is a very smart program in the way that it works, and it's very interesting to see how it handles every photo differently. And one of the things that you can do, which is pretty amazing, is you can select a bunch of photos in your raw images in your catalog and just apply just AI to all of them, and you will be astounded at how much time that will save you. Wow. It is kind of ridiculous on how well it works.
Yep. No, I definitely need to update my Aurora there. So good stuff. Thanks, AD, for coming over. And in case you're interested in seeing more about AD, you can head over to his website, theexplorographer.com. And over there, you have a store. I think you mentioned you had some tools, some presets, or whatever.
I have a few. Yeah, if you go over and you and I think it says like for 2018, but they will work on 2019 as well. All presets for 2018 will work with 3.1 and 2018, 2017, all that stuff. There was a big change in 2017 that they wouldn't work, but all of the current ones are. So I think I have the analog effects in there. I have some Aurora presets built for natural looks in Aurora. So if you run a really you don't like that computerized looking HDR stuff, they're very realistic, subtle effects to make your images basically look natural.
Yeah. And so you got the Aurora stuff, and you also have Skylum presets out there too. So go give those, check those out. If you want to get in touch with AD, I think it's over here on your Who is AD link, right?
Sure.
And click that, go on down below, and there's his contact form. You can just go down there and send him a message if you want to. So pretty easy. And hey,
Yeah.
all that is from my virtual computer.
What?
The website there, the website part of that. From my
Running on the
virtual
VM.
computer that is working really good, knock on wood, right now for this demo. So that's it for this show. Hang out for a post show. There wasn't a lot of questions out there in chat as we went through, but you did go through a lot of stuff pretty fast. And we just lightly touched on, this was not a how to do everything in Sky and Luminar. This was just a light touch on it as an alternative to Lightroom if you're looking for something as an alternative. Or I know some people in our beginners group have never bought Lightroom. Now that it's a subscription, they don't want to. They don't want to be locked into a monthly thing. They're looking for something I can purchase and own. And so this may be an option for you to look at. So with that, we're going to head into post-show. Thanks, guys, for coming out again. Hang out in chat room for a little while, and we'll see you next show. Good night, everybody. Keep it raw. All right. Post-show.
It might be worth noting that those folks that are using old versions of Lightroom, you're going to jail.
You're going to jail.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Going to jail. I don't know if Walter's still out there. Walter, believe it or not, I still play on a regular basis every now and then Fallout 76. Not tonight.
Bethesda launcher update tonight, Mike.
I saw that. Yeah,
Mike, I have a toy for you. Did you see on the broadcast what I found for you?
No. I was doing a.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Gary. At the end of part of my day, we took a group of our executives over to our disaster recovery site. It was in a very large data center, and they codenamed it. Our guys codenamed it. Good gosh, now I forgot the name of the. Where did Thor come from? What was the name of his place?
Isengard?
No. Asgard.
Asgard.
They codenamed it Asgard. So we're making a trip to Asgard. And we went to Asgard.
I was in Lord of the Rings for a minute there.
And
Isengard, yeah, that's right.
And I think when we're in the lobby, everybody was, the visitors that hadn't been there before were a little disappointed, like, this doesn't look that impressive, until we opened the next door and went into the massive place of computers. And this place is a major data center for the East Coast. I think one of the things that happens there is almost all credit card transactions on the East Coast flow through this place.
Wow.
So once we went into the next room, then it was like jaws dropping everywhere. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe this place. And then the next room, and then the next room. So that's where I was. And this place is like a mile from my house. So when we're done with that, I said, I'm not going back to the office. I went home. And so I got to see the last part of your stream.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't see much.
Well, this
Thanks,
name will probably this name will shock Tim because he's gonna be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But
yeah,
Mike, I found you a bloodied fat man.
Oh, that's just awesome. Yeah.
You know what the damage is on it?
But I don't use a fat man.
But you will when you hear what I tell you what the damage is per shot.
500.
1650.
Good grief.
Yeah. So that Tim's like, what? I don't. What?
Yep.
Tim, you're talking another language.
Go to Google, type what is a
right. Don't do it. Right now,
Yeah,
Tim's throwing up the. Tim's like, nerds. Right? Nerds. Yeah. So I found you that, and I also found you 2,500 shotgun shells.
Oh, good. I need those.
So we need to make a trade in game at some point in time.
Yep.
So that's enough Fallout 76.
There you go. That's enough of that. Well, I got from the Luminar, now that I'm an affiliate, I think she gave me a code for Flex, so I can get that one too. Although I don't know how much I'm going to use that, but I want to use Luminar more often.
Yeah. I want to get the aerial stuff and give that a shot. I haven't had a chance to download that yet, but I'm going to be using that a lot this year when we go to Michigan, and I'm looking forward. I didn't realize Michigan has no flight laws for drones. You can fly your drone anywhere you
Really?
want in Michigan. Yeah, I was at a waterfall and I had my drone with me, and this girl walks up, opens up the drone, throws it up in the air, and starts flying. I'm like, "You can fly here?" And she goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "So do you need a permit?" And she's like, "No." She goes, "You can fly anywhere in Michigan." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, she's
And you
like,
looked into it to make sure she was right?
"Yeah, she's absolutely correct. You can fly anywhere you want."
I'm sure they still have the airport restrictions, though.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's clarify that. You can't fly in no-fly zones.
Right.
I mean, come on. But yeah, but any of the state parks.
Well, like state parks and everything.
That's
which is the
nice.
ones
That's
that's
nice. Yeah.
Right?
usually big restrictions.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's nice. So many other
Michigan-
places are locking it down more and more.
Yeah, exactly. I hope it's that way this year because I'm taking like 3 drone pilots with me for this trip. So hopefully we can still fly and enjoy our time.
It's the idiots out there that are messing it up for all the rest of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. We talked about it before, and it's just one of those things that hopefully that it'll be good and have fun with it. But yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that software out. I haven't had a chance to play with it. I did want to say too, for anybody out there who's got a PC, if you check your PC stats, if you run a NVIDIA graphics card in your PC, NVIDIA has released creator drivers that are geared towards better performance in programs like Lightroom, Luminar, Premiere, all that stuff. Basically, they've stripped out all the gaming crap, and it makes your apps run much smoother, much more focused towards creativity rather than gaming. And those drivers, they're updated a lot less frequently, but they're also, from what I've heard, from the driver set that now will work from their higher end graphics cards like the Quattro and all those cards that are designed for productivity. This brings some of that speed and stability to your regular off the counter graphics cards.
Now, do I have to make a choice between?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so it's not like I can run both drivers.
But you have a if you're running a NVIDIA card as a pass through in your Unraid server for your VM, you're going to want to put the creativity drivers on that particular machine because if you do any rendering, anything like that, that machine's going to run much smoother and take much less load on the CPU because of it. So I just wanted to pass that along because I know there's a lot of content creators out there like Lori Rowland and Gary and everybody, and I don't know who has PCs or who doesn't. But if you do have a PC and a NVIDIA card, make sure you go to their website and look for the creators drivers. They're separate from the gaming drivers.
Okay, good point. And I probably need to do that with my VM.
Post-show tip.
Yeah, post-show tip. Although for whatever reason on my VM I can't get. I've put Topaz Denoise and Topaz. What else is that? Can you go? Hit the button by mistake. Yeah. Topaz Sharpen, and both of them pop up and then just die. So I don't know what's going on there with that VM and why they're doing that. They never actually run.
Again, I would just make sure that they're run as administrator. Generally, Mike, what I'll do with a lot of my programs is if I have something I'm trying to run, I'll right-click on the icon on the desktop. So I'll put an icon on the desktop. I'll right-click on it, select properties, and then go to the settings for, I think it's...
and Lori says she uses a Mac.
Yes. I'll go to properties, and then you should see a compatibility tab. And then down at the bottom, it says change settings for all users. I'll go to that, and then I'll make sure that run this program as administrator is checked off. And then I'll save that. And then every time I run that program now, whether it be from that shortcut or any other one, it'll run as administrator. And that way, if it's writing any temporary files to your C drive while it's working, the program will fire up. Because that's usually the problem that I've seen with Windows lately is that if it doesn't run as administrator, and I don't understand how it can let us program install on the C drive and then not automatically make those settings for you. I mean, AI
And also, if
can
it's
do all
running
this
from the
crazy stuff.
user account that is an administrator, you would think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, why even have an administrator account? You should call it like the junior account or something. Like, because I mean, who is the administrator of my computer? I'd like to meet this guy because he's
Yeah.
screwing everything up. You know.
yep.
No, I had to get my salt out there. A little bit of saltiness.
There you
The
go,
old
salt.
win-
You know, that makes me hungry for watermelon because I put salt in my watermelon.
Really?
Yeah, my wife thinks I'm an idiot.
Really?
That's weird.
Well, I guess
I've
you.
never heard of that.
What?
I've heard of vodka on in your watermelon, but never salt.
See, both my kids and my wife think I'm crazy for putting salt on it, and apparently you guys do too. But I've always put salt on my watermelon. I think it just tastes fantastic.
Never heard of
What?
that.
Yeah, it's just
Has,
wonderful.
has anybody left in chat ever heard of that?
I put salt on rhubarb when I was a kid. I wouldn't
Never had
do it
rhubarb.
now.
I don't know if I eat rhubarb. I don't think so.
Never had
I don't
rhubarb?
recall ever
No.
having it.
You've never had strawberry rhubarb pie?
I do not recall. No, I do not think so.
That's a southern thing too. I'm really surprised, man.
Hey, I haven't had everything southern. Now, I grew up in Louisiana, and Louisiana is like another country. It's not part of the South.
I was going to say, yeah, they have their
And
own.
you were really far south.
You know,
Yeah.
we're more
Gary
foreign.
heard of it, never had it.
Louisiana is more foreign than actual other countries.
Yeah, you're right. Because the culture went there, and then it became something completely different from
Yes.
what it was based upon. So
Yeah.
I'd love to get down there at some point in time. It's one of the few states I haven't had a chance to explore. I've been through there a dozen times, but I've never had a chance to just stop and hang out. And
My wife still
There you
wants to go to New
Lori,
Orleans. Yeah,
Lori knows.
she's had
Lord
it. Yeah.
knows about rhubarb.
And Gary's heard of salt on watermelon, but never had any. My wife would love to go to New
'Cause he
Orleans.
thinks you're nuts.
Yeah, love to go to New Orleans and French Quarter, and I've been there a number of times.
Yeah.
And I tell her, yeah, it's a dirty place. It's not just not.
I've got
Dirty in many different meanings.
Yes.
It's literally dirty.
Right.
And then
dirty.
Yes.
I've got a student of mine who lives in the French Quarter.
Really?
You know, they live up over one of the they have apartments on most of the upper, and they have a studio apartment there, and she's like, she goes, I've lived here for I think she said 10 years or something like that, and she's an author and she's written a couple of books, and she's like, I still certain times a day I don't go outside.
Yeah.
I don't walk anywhere alone. She goes,
Really?
There's certain places that you just don't, I mean, it's like any place. I mean, I go to New York City, and obviously
Yeah.
know that you're putting yourself at risk by being in certain places that you shouldn't be.
Yes.
But most of the touristy spots in New York anymore, and most of New York is touristy anymore, but in most of the big cities. But New Orleans, she's like, she goes, there's, certain times of day that you just don't walk down that street and alone as a woman, or you open yourself up for something bad to happen, and that's too bad.
Yeah, now the French Quarter is a historic district. There's lots of wonderful things there too.
Yeah.
My first time to the French Quarter, I was a little boy in Cub Scouts, and my mom was den leader, and I went there on a Sunday, and she's walking us through the French Quarter, and it was a nice day, and we were going to go have beignets and that kind of stuff, which beignets they're incredible when they're done right. They're really, y'all know what a beignet is. It's sort of like a donut with powdered sugar on top of it. It is just really fantastic.
I'm sure it is.
And so anyway, we're walking through it, and as we're walking, I noticed this guy who was flinging this door open. He would fling it open and fling it open. So as my mom walked by, we walked by. He flung it open and left it open, and we look in there, and it was a strip joint. And all us boys, because this is a Cub Scout, little boys, stopped and were just staring in there. He wouldn't let us in, but he was holding the door open so we could look in. And my mom kept walking, thing went right behind her until she turned around and saw where we were and came back. What are y'all doing? And looked in there and saw that. And she was panicked, thinking, all these parents are going to be calling me. She's going to be a talk of the town because we were in a small town. Here this lady is bringing all the boys to the French Quarter to go to a strip club. She was just really panicked. And I think we were all sworn to secrecy to never talk about it again.
until this day.
Until this day. And then we went on and we saw some other interesting things in the French Quarter, but had those wonderful beignets, and it was really a fun experience for a lot of us.
Yeah, Tony was saying that the cemetery was one of the places you got to be real careful in down there, which is a popular place to go see, but it's also a popular place to be mugged or robbed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always that kind of stuff doesn't bother me really. I'm very situationally aware when I go anywhere, so I usually that doesn't really bother me. But I'd love to see it at some point there, and I want to visit Savannah, Georgia too.
That's a very historic place too.
Yeah.
I would not go there in August.
No, I will not.
Either place.
No, I don't think I'd.
Why not in August?
Just really hot. Really hot.
You'll melt. You'll melt.
And it's even hotter and more humid than here in Atlanta. Yep. Well, guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks for coming out, people out in chat. Thank you for coming tonight. We'll see y'all next time. I'm going to stop the stream here. So, see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.